Inera sat cross-legged on the plush VIP lounge, her energy form sensing Daniel's approach, even though her luminous eyes were closed in meditation. Daniel, the human, approached with heavy, furious strides and took a seat directly in front of her, positioning himself uncomfortably close to her energy form. She opened her eyes slowly, her graceful female form flickering seamlessly between solid matter and pure energy. Intimidating green sparks began cascading across the ground, dancing up the sofas, crawling along the walls, and spreading across the ceiling like living lightning. The full extent of her circulatory system became visible through her clothless form, veins of pure light throbbing with cosmic energy beneath translucent skin. When she finally spoke, her voice was low but crystal clear, each word hinting at a being of ancient power.
Why aren't you afraid, human?
I remember reading about transcendence before buying the clunker and taking a gap year to explore the cosmos with my friends.
Daniel replied, completely ignoring all the energy sparks dancing around him.
I know your kind lives very long lives, can glimpse into the future, and are always bored with life, but I also remember reading about your kind's weakness. Your weakness.
Her blood ran cold for a brief moment. She was a creature that had active control over how much of herself maintained a physical form and how much existed as pure energy. She didn't have weaknesses. She could phase through walls. Bullets and laser beams could pass through her without causing damage, and the level of technology required to harm her was beyond most species' reach.
You're a fool,
She said, her voice sharp.
No matter how angry you are, you could never harm me.
She increased her energy output, and now aggressive electric sparks were flying everywhere around him, filling the air with green light and crackling menace. He smiled amid the chaos of light, and that expression sent another wave of coldness through her blood.
The weakness of your species is that you can sometimes glimpse the future, and the psychological damage can be severe when you see a future you don't like.
He said calmly. His smile widened as the sparks continued to dance harmlessly around him.
I'm certain that even though I can do nothing against you in the present, this won't be true in the future. That is, if I'm obstinate and resolute enough now about making this my life mission. Which I am, because I'm penniless and in debt, stressed out with a broken ship here on the other side of the galaxy. In other words, I'm a spiteful human without anything to lose.
She found herself considering scenarios where this human, who didn't appear to be particularly intelligent, might dedicate his life to developing a weapon capable of harming her. The very notion was absurd. What could a primitive biped with such limited lifespan and resources possibly accomplish against a being of her caliber? She laughed, the sound rippling through the air like crystalline bells.
I'm inclined to believe you lack both the resolve and the intellect to harm me.
You didn't hear me correctly,
He said, leaning forward slightly.
I never said I had the means to harm you in any way. I said I could cause psychological damage by creating a future that the current version of yourself would hate.
Her mind struggled to make sense of his words, grasping for understanding and finding none. After all, what kind of terrible future could this simple being possibly create? She took in his unremarkable form again. Disheveled blonde hair, pale skin, defiant eyes glaring from beneath that thick unibrow stretching above his nose. He was nothing more than a primitive creature with a laughably short lifespan.
Let me propose a challenge to make things interesting then,
Enera said, her voice taking on a playful yet dangerous tone.
If you can cause even the slightest bit of psychological damage to me in the present, I will send the finder to check your ship at no cost.
Her luminous eyes gleamed like those of a predator.
But if you fail, I will snap my fingers and return your body to pure energy, and I'll do that even if I have to skip cities afterward to avoid the consequences. Do you dare accepting it?
For a moment, she saw hesitation flicker in Daniel's eyes, uncertainty warring with his earlier bravado. Then he took a deep breath and closed his eyes for just a moment, as if steeling himself for what was to come. When he opened them again, his voice was steady.
I accept your challenge.
She smiled a rare, sincere smile, her expression full of genuine curiosity for the first time in decades.
So, tell me,
She said, her voice almost gentle.
what sort of resolve do you have to make my future miserable? What could a barely sentient monkey with a unibrow and such a pathetically short lifespan possibly offer that would scare the present version of myself?
Daniel smiled from where he sat, and then began laughing before saying,
Despite you being an evil bitch, I find you beautiful. Who can argue with the heart, right?
Utter confusion washed over her features, her luminous eyes narrowing as she tried to process his words.
Is your goal to cause me psychological damage,
She asked slowly.
or to make me feel disgust?
He smiled and said,
I henceforth swear that from today onwards, my life goal is to make you fall for me and take you as my wife.
She asked herself if this was his idea of psychological damage. She doubted this future completely, finding it more impossible than any potential development of a weapon that could kill her. The very concept of her falling in love with this monkey was absurd.
In the end, you lost.
She said, her voice returning to its cold, dismissive tone. Daniel said,
Not before you check our future.
then urged her with growing confidence.
Go ahead, take a peek.
Consider this your last wish.
She said, her voice exuding the finality of cosmic judgment. The ambient around them erupted into a whirlwind of pure energy, green sparks becoming torrents of light that spiraled through the air like living galaxies. Only the two of them existed in her mind for a brief moment. She closed her eyes and slowly extended her ethereal index finger toward his forehead, the digit glowing with the power to peer beyond the veil of time itself. The moment it connected, her eyes snapped open wide in shock, and glimpses of the future began flashing through her ancient mind in rapid succession. Suddenly, it all ceased. The whirlwind of energy collapsed into absolute stillness, and Enera's eyes widened so dramatically that her face lost all proportion. She froze completely, not even daring to look him in the eye, her luminous form trembling with something she hadn't felt in centuries. Genuine terror.
So,
Daniel asked casually, as if he'd just inquired about the weather.
how did that go?
Enera suddenly became fully tangible, her energy form solidifying at once. She began to panic, slapping her own face repeatedly with her now solid hands.
Fool!
She screamed at herself, the blows leaving visible marks on her luminous skin.
I deserve to suffer. How could that future be true?
Her voice overflowed with hysteria.
The future me must have suffered some cosmic accident. There's no other explanation.
She cried in panic. She was certain that Daniel must be laughing at her now that he had obviously caused her psychological damage. But when she suddenly raised her head, she found him not laughing at all. Instead, he was simply staring at her with that ridiculous unibrow and the earnest eyes of a complete fool. It was then that she realized she was not partially energy right now. She was completely solid, and she was naked. A feeling of embarrassment that she hadn't experienced for centuries hit her all at once. She didn't even remember how to process such a sensation. She simply shifted back to her half-energy, half-solid form and said curtly,
You won. The finder you're looking for will be there to fix your ship by morning.
She gestured dismissively toward the exit.
We have nothing more to discuss.
She watched Daniel rise back to his feet, and before leaving, he said,
You don't have to fear the future, because now that I won, I have no reason to try to make your life miserable. Don't worry. I won't try to make you my wife anymore.
She watched Daniel walk toward Kyle across the room, his movements animated as he gestured excitedly. He was clearly trying to explain what he had just accomplished, referencing some primitive internet meme about how transcendence really did have a psychological vulnerability. His voice contained more than a trace of the satisfaction of someone who had just outsmarted a cosmic being. She, on the other hand, was left with a bitter taste in her mouth. After all, unlike some crude internet meme, she understood the immutable nature of glimpsed futures. A shared fate couldn't simply be undone because one of the participants claimed they wouldn't pursue it. The threads of causality had already been woven, and not even Inera herself could see an easy way out of it.
Thank you for watching the 7th chapter of the Finder series. You can find the link to the next chapter in the video description. You can also like the video and subscribe to increase your chances of being notified whenever we post a new one. Hiss.